What is going on, guys? So I'm back today because recently I did a video where I talked about some of my favorite performances from an actress in movies and talked about those in detail, gave you a few actresses that performances have just absolutely blown my mind, that are performances that I think about nonstop. And so today I thought it would be fun to do the same video but with actors and tell you about some of my favorite performances from actors that have really stuck with me, that I've never really forgot about, that have really impacted me. Because as I said in that video, there's so much that goes into a movie between cinematography, sound design, just the way it's presented to you, but the performances are so important. And when you can watch a film that the performance is what sticks with you over anything else, even when there's quality and all of those things, that's a really impressive thing. And so today I'm going to give you a few of those performances from actors that have really impacted me and that I think about quite a bit. So first up, I know you guys know how much I love Charlie Kaufman, but I'm going to talk about Philip Seymour Hoffman's performance in Synecdoche, New York. So Philip Seymour Hoffman is one of my favorite actors of all time. Unfortunately, he passed away at a relatively young age, and it was very depressing to me because I'd always loved Philip Seymour Hoffman. I always thought he was one of the greatest actors to ever do it. When he died, I was really upset, and this movie is one I revisit consistently. It's one of the most important films to me personally, and I think a lot of that is in part to just how amazing Philip Seymour Hoffman's performance is. He has to play a character that we actually see age. He wears old age makeup at points during the movie, and just like alone talking about his bodily movements and the way that he gets around once he ages is so incredibly impressive. The array of emotions that Philip Seymour Hoffman is able to convey through a simple facial expression is just bar none. Some of the best performing I've ever seen in any sort of film that I've watched. I'm always completely enamored with the monologues that he gives in this movie, because obviously Synecdoche, New York examines some relatively dark themes when it comes to, finding your place in the world, overcoming depression, just trying to find purpose. And I think that's so much what us as human beings strive for consistently, is trying to just find what our worth is, trying to find a goal, trying to find something that keeps us going. And I think Philip Seymour Hoffman delivers a performance that conveys all of those emotions in a very realistic way. He's also comedically brilliant in moments in this. It's so interesting that Charlie Kaufman is able to convey such dark subject matter, but also have a comedic light edge in moments, and Synecdoche, New York does that brilliantly, largely in part to just how amazing Philip Seymour Hoffman's performance is in the movie. And yeah, this is just a performance I think about legitimately nonstop. I constantly think about his role in this movie and just how dedicated he was to this material. Truly one of the greatest to ever do it. It's unfortunate that he's gone now, but yeah, it's an unbelievable movie with an unbelievable performance. If you've never seen it before, you're really missing out. Up next is Daniel Day-Lewis's performance in the film Phantom Thread. I am a huge Paul Thomas Anderson fan, and Phantom Thread might be my favorite movie in his catalog, which I know might surprise some of you out there. I think this is a really beautiful romance that's conveyed in a very strange way. Obviously, there's elements of their romance that's really dark and kind of strange, and it's done in a way only Paul Thomas Anderson can pull off. And Daniel Day-Lewis is obviously an actor who has given incredible performances through his entire career. He practices an acting style called method acting, which for those of you out there who don't know, he legitimately becomes the character. He likes to be called the character's name. He likes to practice their day-to-day routines. For Phantom Thread, he spent, I believe, 2 or 3 months working with actual dressmakers so that he could practice that and try to live the role as much as possible, to where he had actual cuts and bruises on his fingertips from working with needles, which, God, being that committed of an actor is just impressive enough as it is. But I think the way that his character is in this movie, because really if you met his character in real life that's in this movie, you'd probably dislike him. He seems like a very off-putting individual who's very easily irked. But what's really impressive is how quickly he can shift from being very off-putting and kind of irritable to very charming and very inviting. And I think Daniel Day-Lewis, being the type of actor that he is able to convey that shift in emotion in a way that shows relative ease. He has some blowouts in this movie, that the way that just he blows up emotionally is incredibly impressive in his delivery. And this obviously is like, it's not like transformative like Lincoln, like he didn't have to wear a bunch of prosthetics or anything, but like just having a character that looks similar to how he looks in real life, and that he's embodying someone else. Like, you forget it's Daniel Day-Lewis when you're watching this movie, because he is Reynolds Woodcock in this film. You just feel it in every single frame that he's in, and it's just one of the most impressive performances I've ever seen in a movie. I think about it nonstop. It's a movie I constantly want to revisit. Has one of my favorite film scores of any movie ever made. It's just such a brilliant film, and just goes to show that PTA, after creating masterpiece after masterpiece, getting to the point where he is in his career to put out a movie like this that's just that insane of quality, that's just so amazing, with a performance from an absolute legend who he's worked with a couple of times, is just really phenomenal. Daniel Day, obviously one of the best to ever do it. I don't really have to go into detail for that, but his performance in Phantom Thread, one of my absolute favorites. Up next, I gotta mention Joaquin Phoenix, one of my favorite actors, and I'm gonna mention one of his more understated performances, which I believe is Spike Jonze' Her. I don't think that Joaquin gets enough credit for this movie. It's not a role that you'd think someone would get an Academy Award nomination for. I love his character's simplicity, and how his depiction of this character feels so incredibly authentic to the human experience. Obviously, it's a film about a man who's dealing with an immense amount of loneliness after going through a divorce. His phone gets an upgrade to a new operating system. The operating system is able to have full conversations and kind of adapt to you as a person, which is really interesting to think about the shift in our culture and artificial intelligence and where that is going. And he ends up forming a relationship with this operating system. And I know when the movie came out, a lot of people were kind of poking fun at it because that was the idea, but I think it speaks volumes to the human experience and to what loneliness can do to a person, and just that desperation to find someone who is like you and who operates like you do. And I think Joaquin's performance in this is so understated, because he's such a tender and compassionate human being who his entire life is in this very technical, digitized world. He writes handwritten letters for people that can't come up with the letters on their own. He gets information about partners and people and writes these really beautiful letters to them. And having a character that's so simple on the outside but is so deeply complex emotionally inside, it takes a specific type of actor to convey that, and I think Joaquin does a brilliant job. And I love his outfit choices. I love his demeanor, because Joaquin is one of those actors that you never know what you're going to get when you watch one of his movies, because he's so different. He has these roles that are really high octane and intense, and he has these really more quiet, nuanced roles, which is what Theodore Twombly's character in Her is, a very quiet, nuanced character. And his performance is just absolutely incredible. It's one that I think about non-stop. One of my favorite movies of all time, if I was making a top 10 films, Her would definitely be in there, and his performance is a big part of that. I think he complements Scarlett Johansson's performance really well. The two of them play off each other really well, even though it's just a vocal performance from Scarlett Johansson, but it's just incredible. I don't think Joaquin gets enough credit for it, and I love praising this movie. Up next is going to be Mads Mikkelsen's performance in The Hunt. The Hunt is a film that I've watched relatively recently from director Thomas Vinterberg, one of the most brilliant films ever made, and Mads Mikkelsen's performance is a big part of it. If you guys don't know, The Hunt is a film about Mads Mikkelsen works at a preschool. He's one of the teachers there, and he has this little girl in his class that he's really close to the parents, and he walks her home sometimes. They're almost like, the two men are almost like brothers. They're that close together. And he's been going through a divorce recently, and he is about to get custody of his son back, and he's just one of the most good-hearted, wonderful people in the world. You see that in the first 15 minutes. Well, through this set of circumstances, that little girl who's in his class gives him a love letter one day, and she like kisses him on the cheek, and he says, no, kids don't do that with adults. He's like, give this to one of your classmates, like they'll really love it, or give it to your mom, or give it to your dad, and has this really long conversation with her, just kind of educating her and telling her like an adult should in that type of a circumstance. Well, because she gets angry, and through this set of circumstances, she ends up accusing him of indecently exposing himself to her, and it gets out in the community, and it starts to ruin his entire life. And what's so interesting is we live in this world right now with cancel culture, where so many women have struggled to be able to come out and talk about their experiences and the traumas that they've suffered, until this whole collective effort of like, hey, you know, if you've been abused or if you've been traumatized in your life by something, it's okay to speak out about it. And to see so many people have been hurt by that, it's heartbreaking, but it's good that it happened. But to see it on the inverse in a film of someone who didn't actually do something, that because of this collective, like, once something gets out there, even if there was no research done, no one has examined it anymore, that someone's entire reputation could be ruined because of a simple lie, because a child was upset because in that moment they didn't get what they wanted, is really fascinating. And I'm sure for Vinterberg it was a very difficult subject matter to kind of tap into. And I think Mads Mikkelsen's performance is what really makes this movie what it is. He is absolutely brilliant. Like I said, with me, for actors, I love dialogue delivery, but facial expression, to me, it really plays a large part into this. And I think you can just feel the hurt on his face in a way that is so palpable and realistic. And seeing the love he has for his son and how hard he's worked to try to get his life back together, and just suffering through this experience that, like, realistically, he did everything right, and it just kind of came back to bite him on the butt. And it's really examined well, but Mads' performance is just brilliant. There's a scene in a church towards the tail end of the movie that is, it probably made me cry harder than any scene I've ever watched in a movie. Just absolutely outstanding. Mads is one of the greatest living actors right now, one of my favorites. No matter what role he is in, he just lives it and breathes it in a way that it is so impressive. I always look forward to anything that he gets announced to be in. And yeah, The Hunt, it's depressing. It's a very hard movie to watch, but it's a very incredible movie. And if you've never seen it, you 100% need to watch it. I think I'm going to do one more because I don't want to go for too long, but I could not do this video without talking about Willem Dafoe's incredible performance in Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse. Probably one of my favorite films of the past 10 years plus. Robert Eggers' filmmaking style in a film like The Lighthouse is probably the closest we're going to get to like a modern Bergman. The way that Eggers shoots things, the attention to detail and his cinematography is incredible, but also the level of performance that Eggers gets from his actors is just truly special. And Willem Dafoe's performance in this movie is one of the best I've ever seen in any film, period. Not only the accent that he's using, but I found out through interviews he wore these fake teeth through the entire making of the movie. And the level of inflection and delivery in his dialogue is so impressive. The thing about The Lighthouse that's so great is that it's a psychological thriller. It's very tense, it's anxiety inducing, but it's also hilarious. And most of that is because of Willem Dafoe. He is able to give this very over-the-top, absurd performance that complements the tonality of the film, where like when something's getting really heated, he's able to add that comedic levity in there, but he's also able to contribute to the anxiety. And it takes a very special type of actor to be able to live in those two worlds and to complement that so well. Every time he gives that monologue about the cooking after he like condemns Robert Pattinson's character, it's one of my favorite sequences in any film. Truly, just absolutely brilliant. The way he delivers the monologue, the way he moves his body, just like so committed to this role to where it is transformative. You forget that it's Willem Dafoe. You're watching this character be brought to life on screen. Truly one of the most memorable performances in a movie I can think about for a very long time now. And every time I revisit The Lighthouse, I get so excited to just see it again because of how much I love Willem Dafoe. I will never get tired of this movie. I have a tattoo based on The Lighthouse on my arm because of how much I love this movie. And yeah, it's just one of the most brilliant performances of all time. You should definitely watch it. So what are some of your favorite performances from an actor? Let me know in the comments. I love hearing from you guys so that I can watch new movies when you guys talk about it, and I'm very excited to hear your comments. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.